My friends, did you ever ask yourself what's the difference between a human and a robot? Or something that's alive and something that's lifeless? Or something that has a soul and something that's inanimate and mechanistic? Well, in today's technocratic, scientific, engineered and mechanistic society that we call freedom, that we live in, is very different. It's very difficult because we see the robots have more life than humans, which is very eerie, you know. How is this so? How did this happen? You know, we just have our programs. That's it. We say and do things that are not really us. You see, we've just become droids, and the only thing left for a robot is breakdown or becoming obsolete. You see, and then you get spit out after you become obsolete. So you see, my friends, when you look at human beings today and you look in their eyes, you see emptiness. You see a condition of just hollowness. And I think of caves and echoes when I see them. You know, there's no life in them. And it's even worse with the supposed Christians, because they are eating of the same world system. You see, that is turning people into robots, because you see, a robot has no understanding. It's just a program. It has no heart. You see, and the heart is the throne of Christ. So it is incumbent upon God's people to have heart. Every time Jesus, it says he was moved with compassion. He was moved with compassion and he did this. He was moved with compassion and he did that. He was angry and he picked up the whip. He was this. His feelings were the greatest thing, because he had put them in line with God's commandments. You see, so when somebody breaks God's commandments and then starts oppressing and destroying people and committing all kinds of atrocities in God's name, it angers you, and it's a righteous anger, because God is not happy. Because then, if you don't listen to, you know, one of the prophets or preachers or whoever it is that is sent by God, then you're going to have to listen to God when he sends his judgment. You see, and if that doesn't work, then it's going to be death and destruction. You see. So this is why, my friends, you know, you have to ask yourself why people are become parrots, robots, technocratic derivatives, you know, deriving from technocracies and technocratic people who just sit down and write this and that, and you know, there's no life in it, and people buy this stuff. Because it's very easy to flood your mind and then say I'm smart, and not to take one word and put it into your heart. Because in order to put those words into your heart, you need to suffer, and nobody wants to do that. You see, you need to question it. Then, in order to really put something into your heart, you need to question it. You see, to have understanding, you have to ask the question. They asked Jesus, well, by whose authority do you do these things? You know. And so Jesus never answered their question. He said, by whose authority did John the Baptist do the things that John the Baptist did? And he said they reasoned among themselves. And they said, because they knew that either which way they go, they were going to lose. So they said, we know not by whose authority he did the thing. So Jesus said, well, neither will I tell you by whose authority I do the things that I do. You see. So we have to understand that, you know, you have to question things, but your questioning has to be from the right. It's not questioning to resist things or to try and make people look stupid or this or that. No, it's questioning for the sake of understanding. This is the first thing a child does in class, is ask a question. You see, oh, what does this mean? How does that work? What is this? So if this happens, and people answer because their motives are correct. You see. I'm not questioning to tempt you or make you look silly or stupid or that you don't know what you're saying. You see? So we have to challenge the things. So if you receive 20 thoughts and you have not turned one of those thoughts and put it in your heart, then you're just overloading yourself. You see? You have to take it slowly by slowly, and then you have to take it and suffer. It's like taking iron and putting it in the fire to mold it. You see? And it takes time, and it takes the fire, the trials, the tribulations to say, hey, do I really believe it? Okay, I believe God is love. Okay, yeah. Then someone says, well, you need to love your neighbor. And it's not within you. You don't know what love is, because you've never been through any. You've never taken it into the ghetto. You've never taken it to people that spit on you. You've never taken it to people that betray you. You've never taken it to Saul, who became Paul, and then you had to love him and forgive him. You see? So you sit there and say God is love, and you're living in your bubble, in your robotic mind, you know, where we just dwell in logic, you know. And this is the thing. You've got to take it from the mind into the heart. And how do we do this as believers in God? We take our thoughts to the Spirit of God. We humble ourselves and consider these things foolishness before Him, and ask Him, Lord, how do I do this? What does this mean? This man say in this book this and this. How do you see this? You know, I don't know. You know, and you have to have this kind of living relationship, because if Jesus is in your heart and you say you have if Jesus is not in your heart and you say you have a relationship with Him, you're lying to yourself. You've deceived yourself. You're one of the Oprah followers. You're just buying books and all this other stuff. It's the same thing with the scriptures. The scriptures have to be given life. You see? And the scriptures testify of Jesus Christ. And you have to go to Him. Come to me, He said, that you may have life. You see? Eat of this bread. Drink of this water. You see? He was talking about you need to go to Him. If somebody introduces you to somebody, you know, in the form of a letter, maybe you meet somebody, then once you meet them, you don't just, you know, keep saying, well, I want to know the letter and I'm going to read this letter. No, you're going to get to know the person whose letter is talking about. You see, and you're going to grow. We have to go through the things that many of these people went through in order to have true wisdom, so that when we speak to the lost, we know where they're coming from. We have the right kind of compassion. We have the right kind of mercy and grace behind our words. Our words are coming from the depth of God's love. See, it says Jesus is in the bosom of God. Read John. You see? Where's the bosom? People don't understand this stuff, man. You have to become the heart of God, walking around in a world that's ready to murder you. You see? And you can't do that by head knowledge, because you become the murderer then. So you have to put Christ in your heart. And not, they've bought into this worldly wisdom because it gives them houses and cars and wealth, but it has taken away their souls. And it's made merchandise of people and robbed their souls at the same time. And they go around having faith in action plans and 501c3 corporations and mission statements and all this other business stuff, which they are not even really good at. They trust in lawyers and the things that Paul said not to put your trust in. You know, they all said you can't trust these things. You don't know what runs the systems of the world. There is no nation in this world that is run by the Spirit of God. You see, the only nation in this world that is run by the Spirit of God is the nation of God, which is the kingdom of God in the world, which is in all nations, tribes and tongues. You see, now when that nation, tribe and tongue seeks its identity from the world and from political systems and from false patriotism and from all these other kind of things, from social systems, from economic capitalism and communism and socialism and all these other isms, you start putting your trust in these finite doctrines and the doctrines of men, and then you submit the kingdom of God to these doctrines. My friend, you are in grave error, and you will be judged just like everybody else, and more severely. You see, so we have to turn and become the lambs of Christ. Follow after Him. We have to know Him, and He has to know us. See, He need to live in our hearts, and we need to live in His. You see, we're not callous, brazen, technocratic, robotic, metallic, wiry, electrically driven things. We life, and we be given life by the Spirit of God. We feel people's infirmities. We feel their pain. We feel their suffering. We realize the hopelessness of the world. Unfortunately, Christians have the hope in the world and of the world. But we who are true, we see the hopelessness in the world. This is why we seek a hope that is not of this world. We don't seek this kingdom as it is right now, the kingdoms of men. But we preach the kingdom to come, whose builder and maker is God, and whose king is Jesus Christ.